Welcome to The Journey. I'm your host, Connie Salika, and I am here interviewing Julieann Hartman. And we have been on quite a journey. This has
Yes,
been...
we have.
Wow. And we last left off that you had met Butch
Yes.
while you were doing stand-up. And you also had, we teased about you have meeting Billy Blanks and your
Right.
journey through Tybo. But let's get back to your relationship with Butch. I'm so fascinated with the fact that you could just let down your guard and trust a man after what you went through. But you said it just happened naturally, and this guy treated you differently than any of the other men in your life had treated you. And there was just a comfort and a peace about being with Butch Hartman, who I adore. But tell us a little bit how that relationship developed. And
Well, so we, in the beginning, it was I was going to be his acting coach, and so he's just one of the sweetest. I mean, that man, God just designed him for me. He really did. But I could have blown it, only because I wasn't used to having men be so nice to me. And there was
you could have blown it with distrust, just not being able to trust a man.
Exactly. And but
That had to be a God thing.
It really
gave you that
was.
peace.
It really was. And I never messed with him. See, I messed with other men. I would just mess with their lives and making them want me, and then I don't want them. All that.
That was the control issue.
That was the control, exactly. And so, but not with Butch, though. There was something that was very different. And he was just this sweet guy from Michigan, and there was nothing pretentious about him whatsoever, but he loved me. It's like a gentleman that I had dated before him loved himself, I think, a little bit more than he loved me. But I call him Butchie, but Butchie loved me, and I knew it right away. And he would just, like I said in the last episode, we would just stare at each other. And we would always say we'd always be together, but we never said the M word because that was committing, too much. But we just knew that was it for both of us. So
what kind of relationship was he coming from? Had he been in a serious relationship? Had he been married?
No, never been married. But he had, just a few ladies that he dated, but nothing. But the funny part about
he
all
wasn't
this,
bringing the same baggage into your relationship that you were bringing it.
But he also had a very chaotic house.
He did.
And really crazy things. That'll be the journey I'll do on Butch Hartman, that I'll do on him. But no, that was, so now you've got a man, this is what's so awesome, what God has done. You've got a man that couldn't trust a mom and a girl that couldn't trust
a dad.
How do those two make it?
Wow.
They just don't. And unfortunately, he didn't get to be raised with his mother left when he was 9 years old. So it was just him and his 4 brothers and his dad.
So he was abandoned by his mom.
Yeah. Well, for reasons, we won't talk about, but yeah, in a sense, he was. So, and that was all crazy and, just a lot of baggage from that. So here we are now trying to come together, but we don't want to give each other's hearts real quick because we both were hurt and all that. But there was just something about him. And again, we didn't know Jesus back then, but there was something there and just the fact that he just loved me so much for me and not for anything I could do for him, just because he loved me. And at the time, I still had my emotional roller coasters of depression and just sadness. I remember we used to play this game, and I would say, let's play this game, and because he'd always make me laugh. So I say, here, can we play Make Me Laugh? Because I'm not feeling really happy right now. And he would just, do like voices or say like silly things or sing songs, and he was always making me laugh.
Oh, that's
and he
so
would just
important.
break me out of all of that.
So how long did you date before you actually got married?
Well, we were dating for a year and a half when we got engaged. And so that was...
And then how long were you engaged?
So 9 months we were engaged, and then we ended up getting married. But that was a crazy story too. So he goes to ask me that night that we were out in Hollywood, and you remember the Rainbow?
I don't.
You never went to the Rainbow?
I don't think
the Rainbow Room in Hollywood?
No.
Anyway, it was a rock and roll club.
I'm not from here.
Oh, you're right.
I'm not from here. I'm from New York.
Okay, true. How about the Roxy?
Yes, I've been to the Roxy.
So the Rainbow. Well, now we're the same. We got it now. But the Rainbow was down a few blocks, maybe a block. Anyway, I had gone there to, actually, this is what's so funny. The very first time we ever went out, I invited him out to Butch. This is before we're married, when we first meet. Because remember, he wasn't my type. I dated tall blonde men. We go out to this club, and I was going to set him up with our receptionist at Jeopardy. And so I've got
The receptionist that got you involved in
No, she
stand-up?
was our researcher.
Oh, researcher, sorry.
But this is
Okay.
another girl. She's our receptionist. And so I'm like, oh, this is perfect. She's, about his, like small, and it'd be perfect. So he parks his car at my house and we take a taxi because, of course, we're going to get drunk, Of course
And
we
he
would.
knows that you're going to set him up with someone else?
Yes, but he wanted to be with me. And so anyway, I said it. We're at the Rainbow and everybody's dancing. And I'm like, you should probably ask her to dance. You're dancing with me. You probably should ask her. And he goes, she doesn't really look like she's interested. Anyway, that night we're leaving and we're passing by the Roxy. And I was like, I don't understand why you didn't want to ask her to dance. That's really dumb. Like, if you want to get to know someone, you should at least. And he swings me around and he goes, it's not her I want, it's you.
Oh.
And then he kisses me. And I went, what? So for the night that we got engaged, he wanted to go back to where we first kissed. But I don't know we're getting engaged. So we go to that club, and it was just a dumb things that happened. I get mad at him. And
That night?
That night, yeah. So I get mad. I get so mad at him. I'm like dismissing him. So we get into the car. There's what was funny is that there was a sheriff out there directing traffic because it's Sunset Boulevard, right, on a Friday night, and the guy's directing traffic, and so we're arguing. We're like yelling all the way to the car, and the cop goes, "Are you sure you want to get in the car with him?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to get in the car with him. Matter of fact, I wish he would just stay here, but this is his car, and we've got to go home." So I said, "So I'm driving." So I drive his car to Burbank, where I was living at
With
the time.
him in it.
With him in it. We're yelling the whole time. I don't know that he's got a ring in his pocket. And we get out, and
Butchie.
I know it's this beautiful scene, right? We're at old Burbank, the street lamps.
Yes.
So I have his jacket on because it was cold in the city. I get out of the car and I said, and by the way, I'm taking the jacket off, and I'm like, and lose my phone number, and I throw the jacket
And
in.
the ring comes out of the jacket. That would have been a
You're
great
such an
scene.
actress. No, but he comes around and he was like, and all of a sudden he gets on his knee. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I said, I don't even like you right now. What are you doing? And so I ran from him. Anyway, I run away and he comes to get me. We end up falling on the lawn together, someone's lawn. And I know, it was like out of a movie. And he said, he goes, I just want to marry you. Will you marry me? He goes, I love you so much. And I was like, yes,
Oh, gosh.
So that's how, so it started off pretty crazy.
Oh, my gosh.
And so, yeah, then we were married.
In 1992, the same
92.
year I was married to John.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That is beautiful. That's beautiful. So then you both work out with
Well,
Billy
no, it
Blanks,
was
or
just me.
Oh, just you.
Because I'm the one that loves to work out. And let me just add one reason why I would love to work out, and I haven't really talked about much, is I really had a lot of depression and anxiety because of my childhood.
And the
I
endorphins really
yes,
helped you
and that's
deal
what helped
with
me
depression,
deal with it.
of
So
course. Well,
would
you knew
be-
that. That's wonderful that
Yeah.
you could figure that out.
I would go to
instead-
acting classes till 2 a.m, and then I'd go to, remember Holiday Spa?
Yes.
Or Holiday, whatever, it was one of those, where, it was off of Gower. Anyway, I'd go there and I'd run I forget the name of it, and it doesn't matter what the name was, but I'd run the treadmill and I'd run the track till 3 a.m.
But
That's
it
how
was
I
your
would,
feel-good endorphins.
that's how I would get myself, and I'd fall into bed and I wouldn't have to deal with my own
Because you'd be
thoughts.
so exhausted that you would.
So I did that all the time. I mean, I'd work out so much that I would collapse at night.
Wow.
And that's how I would get to sleep. And so
Okay.
one thing that, and I lived with several different men, but this was one I did not live with, my husband. In the very beginning, I said, I know this is different, even though we wouldn't say marriage, but I knew it would be different, and so I didn't want to live with him. But anyway, so that's why I chose working out, it was a way that I could, deal with my emotions and all that stuff. So now, fast forward, I did meet Billy in 1990 because of that fight scene that I never did. He taught me how to do a fight scene.
Fight scene that you were supposed to do for an audition.
Yes.
And
so if you haven't watched the other episodes, you need
Yeah.
to go back. But I was going to do this audition where I had to learn how to fight, and I knew how to street fight. I knew how to fight my sisters, but I didn't. I didn't know how to fight, on camera. So my agent went in and just the yellow page was B, A-B, Billy Blanks. So I went there and I said, and here I am. And I had a foul mouth, remember?
Yes.
Because my dad was the contractor, right?
And we still have to get to how
Yes.
you got rid of those words.
And I had a foul mouth. And it's so funny because Billy and his daughter remember how I walked in. It was like, is this going to ever effing be over? And, it was just funny. But anyway, so he choreographed a scene for me. I went back, did the audition, didn't get the job, but I never left Billy Blank's Real Train. So I stayed there for 20 years.
20 years?
I was with him 20 years.
And you're still really good friends with
Yes,
Billy.
yeah.
And you've seen him go through a
Oh my
lot
gosh.
of changes. Yeah.
A lot of change. Well, first of all, I saw
Success, amazing, huge
Yeah.
success.
Well, that was-
worldwide success. You
Yes.
traveled with him.
and Taibo was called aerobics in the beginning.
Is that right?
Yeah, so it was karate and aerobics.
A lot of
mixed.
you may recognize the Taibo workouts. They were
Yeah.
very, very popular.
So popular. But when I walked in there, it was aerobics, and he had something that no one else had ever done before with exercise. So anyway, so fast forward with that, then Taibo becomes very popular. But before all that, Butch and I decide that we thought we would get married with saying that we would not have kids because we had such crappy childhoods. We're like,
You didn't
why
want
would
to bring other kids
Yes.
in because how would you know how to parent kids if you didn't have a good role model?
Did not know.
And that's what you figured out
Yep.
and said, okay, let's not do it to
Yeah.
other kids.
So Butch and I were like, we're good with it. We'll get married and not have kids. But it was one day we both said, like, at the same time, we need to have a baby. It was like, oh my gosh, I feel the same way. I'm like, I know, I do too. So we
How
did.
long after getting married did you come up with that?
So Carly was born in 95. So
was it-
92. Yeah, about 2 years.
Yeah.
But but now remember I told you in the last episode that I was anorexic, and so I still was not.
That can
yeah.
make getting pregnant difficult.
It was, and I still wasn't out of that all the way. I was eating more, but the mind had not been changed. I was still in that. I'm only going to eat what I say I'm going to eat, and I'm not going to let anybody else tell me what to eat. And so, but when I had gone to the doctor, when we were trying to get pregnant, I couldn't. And
So you went for fertility checks?
yeah, and he told me, he said, because I told him about the anorexia, and he said, you're going to have to eat while you're pregnant. Oh. So I knew I had to eat 3 times a day at least, or I would not have a healthy baby. And so I was a little freaked out about that because I had never done that in years. Since I was a teenager was the last time I ate like that. So that was a lot that I had to deal with. But again, there's still no Jesus, except for one day a friend of mine, she knew I was in a bad way. Just, not getting jobs, as an actress and really wanting to pursue that, not understanding why I wasn't. I stopped doing stand-up because it just it wasn't for me. I just didn't like that lifestyle.
You're still working at Jeopardy?
Still working at Jeopardy. And thank God I had that job. Because that job, paid for everything, because I didn't, that was my day job that you don't quit when you're making money. And she said, I think you should go to church with me because you're kind of all over the place. And she took me to Church on the Way.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was very interesting because they do the altar call, but I didn't know I really wasn't paying attention to it because I was in my own funk. And so all of a sudden he does the altar call, and all of a sudden the doors, I don't know if it was a windy day, but all the doors, it's kind of like around, all the doors open and this light comes in. And I'm like, wow, because have everybody shut their eyes when there was, the invitation. Close your eyes, and I had my eyes open because I wanted to watch everything. And I see this light.
Because you're not trusting anything.
No, oh no, but nothing there held, nothing got me that day. And so I didn't understand. And what was funny is that they were on stage praying in tongues, but I'm thinking, why are they speaking in Hebrew? That is so rude. I can't understand this. And I had no clue whatsoever. No one explained it to me. So that was just a few little times where, I went to church for, whatever. But nothing really worked. But then we now have our daughter, Carly. We get pregnant. It took us 9 months. We get pregnant. We have Carly. And I am like, what do you do now?
Oh.
I don't even know what to do.
Where was your mom?
My mom, she was living in Texas now at the time.
Oh.
So
she wasn't there with you when you had your...
No, she was transferred to Texas right before I had her. So it was just, my sister was in the valley with us, but it was just Butch and I, because his family's all in Michigan. So, but we had Carly, and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what to do. I really don't know, how to be a mom, and I'm definitely not. See, before that, I was like, I am not a stay-at-home mom. That is not me. I'm a businesswoman. I'm a career woman. I get nannies, and that was me. And a nanny's going to raise my daughters. Well, then I have her, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like, my heart now.
You fall in love. Like you cannot explain.
No.
And like you never expected.
Never. And just even being away from her for 5 minutes, you're like, you can't deal with it. But so I found a love that I'd never found before in having her. And then Butch and I, having our kids, having a daughter together, and we both were just, it was so funny. That'll be another show someday, just the funny, dumb things that you do when you first have a baby and you think that, they're not breathing or, all that stuff.
You put the mirror under their nose
all the
in the middle of the
time.
night to see if there's...
And trying to how they say let the baby cry, but we would both pull each other off the staircase to go get her because we're like, you're gonna go, no, I'm gonna go. And we would we get into physical fights, pulling each other down. No, I'm gonna go in there because we just didn't know. But I was devastated because I had this career at Jeopardy and I didn't know what to do financially. It was all pretty nice. And so, again, don't know Jesus. I can't really trust him at the time for finances because I don't know anything about that.
Trust who?
The Lord.
Oh.
That he would provide.
Okay. I thought you meant Butch. Okay.
No, but trust the Lord that he would provide. And so, anyway, we, one day someone said, if you have kids, you should probably go to church. So we were on a journey to find a church now that we have a kid, but what we would do is we would never
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, we wouldn't go in the church. This is so funny. We would sit in the baby room with our baby, and we'd hear it on the loudspeaker, but we would not go into a church. And so, where are you going to get knowledge from that? There's no way. You're not going to
Was the service piped into a speaker?
Yeah.
And that's the way you heard it?
And that was it. And so that went on, and then we had our second daughter, Sophia, again. Here now
How old was...
Carly was 18 months when I got pregnant, so she was 2 years and 3 months.
Okay.
And
so you have two babies.
Yes, and there was one day I literally have them on the bed, and I'm good. Now I am a stay-at-home mom because, check this out. So our nanny that I had, yes, I did get a nanny, but I regretted it. But I didn't know how to get out of Jeopardy.
You had that mommy guilt about working and
Totally.
not being with...
It was awful, but it was the best decision I ever made. That's why I'm an advocate for moms to stay home, because you don't want to ever live in regret. Living in regret is horrible.
But staying at home is not right for every woman. But what I'm against is women telling other women that their choice is wrong. I mean, I went through the superwoman syndrome.
Right.
I wore the cape. I had to be the perfect career woman and the perfect mommy, and I was making myself sick, and I had to take off the cape and realize I wasn't going to be perfect at either one.
Yeah.
And what I resented was other women telling me, both sides, you have to stay home once you have a baby, and don't you ever think about giving up your career to have a baby. And so it worked both ways. And I think that we have worked so hard to have a choice. Yeah. And sometimes it works for women to have both, and sometimes it doesn't. But it's always a struggle.
It is, no
it's
matter
always
what.
a struggle, and your choice was the right choice.
Yeah, I could not see myself being on a set, when we would tape the show till 7 p.m. and I'm sitting there daydreaming about my babies being home and being fed by a woman that didn't even speak English. Carly's first language was Spanish, and English was her second language. And I was like, this is not right. There's something not right about this, Julieann. Get it together. And so Billy Blank's wife at the time was very generous and said, I know that you're really struggling with this. Why don't you just leave your job and come to work for us and just like a couple hours a day if you want. Bring the girls.
I was going to say bring the girls,
Bring
because
the
that's what
girls.
worked for me, is I was
Yeah.
always able to bring my kids
Yeah.
to work, and that's the only reason why it worked. But so that's wonderful.
So, but what happened was I came home one day, so it got a little shortened. I was going to give notice, but I wasn't going to wait till the first of the year, and it was around Thanksgiving. And I came home, and Sophia was sitting on the floor underneath where my nanny was ironing, and she had brown stuff all over her. And I'm like, what's that? Well, we had a dog that was old, and the dog would lose his bowels, but my nanny went blind, and no one knew. And so Sophia was eating the dog poop.
Oh.
And she had it all over her
I
little
just don't like the
belly.
idea that she was under the iron.
Yeah, I know. So I walk in and I said, her name was Tita. She's gone on to be with the Lord. What an amazing woman. But I was like, Tita, what's wrong with you? What's Sophia doing? And she's looking through me. She can't even see me. And I'm going like this and her eyes aren't changing.
Oh.
And I said, you can't see, can you? And she goes, no, Senora, I can't see. And I pick up Sophia and she's got this all over her and we were devastated.
So
I
that
went
pushed
back.
you to...
Butch stayed home. I went back the next day to work and I said, well, guess what? Juliann's out. And I left. And that was horrible way to leave, but it was the best thing that I ever did. And I had to learn to be a stay-at-home mom. I had to learn to sit home and talk to kids all day. I didn't, and I didn't know, I wanted to be a good mom. And I was so afraid that I wasn't going to be a good mom.
And you didn't have a lot to teaching on how to be a good mom.
But one day, I got both girls on the bed and I'm changing Sophia's diaper. And I hear an audible voice. And I'd never heard an audible voice in my life. And I'm thinking there's somebody in the room with me. And the voice said, prepare them for greatness.
Is this the Lord speaking to you?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, who said that? And I'm like,
Literally?
Yes. I'm like, this is weird. And I'm like, well, I guess if that's you, I don't know how to do it. So you got to show me what to do.
But you didn't know him yet.
No. But you hear of God, like, God speaks, right? So I just assumed he was piped in my house somewhere. And I just said, well, you got to show me what to do because I don't know how to do this. And so every time, literally, I would go to him daily. How do I do this? How do I do that? How do I do this? And I didn't really know him. But in 1999/2000, 99, Billy now starts really Billy Blank starts really getting into the Word in a way where he's being very vocal about it.
And is that who brings you to know the Lord?
Yes.
Is Billy?
Yeah. So I was his acting coach. So imagine this. I'm working at Sony, driving from Culver City to Tarzana to work with him on his acting because he was getting all these movies. And he would put the script aside and bring out a Bible. And I'd be like, hello, I just took my whole lunch hour for you and you keep bringing out this Bible. It was like day after day. And I'm like, I'm not coming back here if you're going to read me some scriptures. Like, don't you want to do good on this show? And so it would never stop. So that was that weirdness, kind of like we knew a little bit.
Tug on your heart?
Yeah. And then we saw his life change drastically.
And was Butch witnessing this at the same time?
Butch was witnessing it too, so we're like, whatever he's got, we want it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
So he actually invited me first to church, and it was down at Crenshaw Christian Center, which is down in Inglewood. And I went to see Billy get an award. And I got into what they call the Faith Dome, and I'm watching this whole thing. I'm like, what is this? I've never seen anything like this in my life, and it was televised. So it's like, action, camera, people moving, singing, worship, what? What is all this? I'd never seen that before. And what I love is that was literally the foundation of what we started with was at Crenshaw Christian Center. It was, 90% African American. We were about maybe 15 of us that were not.
Right.
And our girls, I went back home that day and I was like, look, I don't know what I just witnessed, but this is where I'm going to go. Do you want to join me? And he said, no, I'm not going down there.
Butch said no.
Yeah. So he stayed back a couple weeks. And then one day he goes, you know what? I got to go with you. I can't let you go there by yourself. Besides, I'm seeing you change a little bit. So, and that was the place. See, that's what's so important. It was a place that said, if you don't have a Bible, we will bring you one. We'll give you one right now. And thank God, because I didn't have a Bible. But they also were the place, this is funny. I came in my miniskirt, and the beautiful ladies came right over and put a little, lace scarf over
your legs.
in my legs, and then put a Bible in my lap. No one judged me. They just, showed me like, hey, you're in the front row. You're right there. Everybody's, the pastor's looking. You got this short skirt on. You probably need to cover yourself.
Wow. So Billy led you to the Lord.
Yes.
And then you started going to Crenshaw Church. And then at some point, you got sick.
Yes. So we actually stayed at that church until 2010. So it was about 11 years that we were there.
And when did you start getting sick?
So in 2008, but what was so amazing is that being with Billy, I became his personal assistant.
Oh.
And like I said, the girls were involved, my husband was involved, like we were like a team. We were Team Taibo, right? Because now Taibo is blown up and it's huge all over the world.
And you're traveling all over the world.
And we're traveling. I got to go to Afghanistan. I got to go to Iraq with him and do all over Japan, all over the U.S. And it was amazing, just an amazing experience that I got out of that. And so yeah, I started working for him, and I was a Taibo instructor. He's a personal assistant, and just one day in 2008, I literally woke up, and I just noticed I was in a lot of pain. My back was hurting, my legs were hurting, and I'm thinking, because we did some really fun but yet / crazy stuff in Taibo, because I loved working. I love working out, I still do. And Billy always wanted to.
Are you addicted to the endorphins?
I was.
Yeah.
I was. Totally I was. But I do love working out,
Right.
though. And I
It's a
love
great feeling.
Yeah,
And
I just love like coming up with creative ideas and stuff because I train myself pretty much now. But anyway, so I was, I couldn't figure out, was it because I was also a personal trainer, and Billy would do like these crazy workouts with us. They were so fun. Not
So
the
you
televised
started
ones.
feeling pain.
Yeah, I started feeling pain. So I'm thinking, oh, it's just soreness from some of the workouts we were doing. But then I started feeling like I had the flu. And it not just lasted a couple days, it was a couple weeks. And then it went into like a month. And I'm like, oh, something's not right.
Did you go to a doctor?
I did go to a doctor, and they told me that, we don't know why you might have, because what you do, you might have chronic fatigue syndrome, because you've worked out for so long. We were working out 6 days a week, 5 hours a day, at least minimum, 5 to 6 hours a day.
That's a lot.
But that was my job,
Right.
right? And so that's why, it made sense that this was happening. But they tried to give me all kinds of medication. One being, like the packet that they give with all the 7 days, of that drug.
Steroids?
I don't know what it was, but I remember taking it home, looking at it, and it says may cause cancer. Oh. And I was so mad at that. So I went back the next day.
I said, you gave me something that's going to cause cancer?
I did. I said, how do you feel comfortable giving me, a mom with 2 small kids, something that would cause cancer? He says, well, that's 1 in 1,000. I'm like, and you're okay if I'm that 1 out of 1,000? And he just kind of looked at me and he said, well, you don't have to take it if you don't want to. And I said, no, I'm not taking it.
What did he think he was treating?
He was treating pain. Because he didn't know what was wrong. But see, what actually ended up happening is that the past trauma, hit my present.
Yeah.
And some things just blew up in my face. And all of the
Did you know then that that's what was happening as you were getting sick? Did you know that it was this trauma from your past with what emotional upheaval was going on at that point? Did you say 2008?
Yeah.
Was all contributing to how you were getting sicker and sicker?
I didn't know
together?
at the time.
Okay.
But the Lord revealed it to me.
Okay. But then the Lord also revealed some guy with a very heavy Texas accent to you too, right?
Yes. Andrew Wommack.
Yes. And I think that's where we should
Yes.
stop this.
God, this is going so fast.
And we should I look forward to hearing about your meeting and your exposure to Andrew and Jamie
Yes.
Wommack.
Yes.
That's what we'll come back with for our next
Changed our
episode.
life completely.
As
when that
he has
happened.
changed my life also, and that's how I met you.
Yeah.
So, I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am, and I want to thank you for being with us on the journey. I'm Connie Salika, and for Julieann Hartman, thank you again for being with us, and we will see you for part 5 of her journey. Don't miss it.
Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next week.